Royce, you don't get a better rock-ribbed, Constitution-loving conservative than Ed Royce. And Ed Royce did not get sucked into the Washington, D.C. bureaucracy bubble. He's the same guy there as he is in California. You need him, and I came all the way from Minnesota to thank you for giving us Ed Royce. He's a treasure. He deserves our support. And the people who came to the press conference, what we call the emergency house call on Congress, were people just like you. In fact, maybe some of you were there. People from all over the country came. Why? They love our country. They don't want the government to take over health care. They don't want government to, in effect, nationalize our bodies and decide if we live, if we die. Now, really, how dumb is Sarah Palin? Really? I mean, you know, they're saying death panels? What do you think rationing is? What do you think that is? You've got a bureaucracy called the Board of Healthcare Choices. The question is, who gets to make the choice? Is it you or is it a bureaucrat? It is a bureaucrat under President Barack Obama's bill. I got to tell you, in the car when I was coming, I was speaking with one of the leaders of the National Tea Party movement. You know what she said, Michelle? A poll just came out yesterday in California. I told her where I was. And she said that the poll said that 30% of the people in California identify with the Tea Party movement. 30%! Unbelievable! This is going on all over the country because what we have seen in the last 12 months is nothing short of a rewriting of the history of America. It's a rewriting. It's people who despise, in many ways, the freedoms that we cherish. You know, in our committee, Financial Services Committee, that Ed and I are privileged to serve on, our chairman, Barney Frank, and I'll tell you, who knew it would be the center of the universe these last 3 years? With the bailouts, with Bear Stearns. And so we get a lot of face time with our friend, Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner. And the Treasury Secretary, who had a little tax problem, I'm a federal tax lawyer, kind of forgot to pay $35,000 in taxes, even though his employer cut him a check for that amount, wrote him a note, "Dear Tim, pay this amount on your taxes." He forgot to pay it. He came before our committee and I asked him a question. I said, "Mr. Secretary, could you point where in the Constitution, where is your authority for the bailout? Where is your authority for Bear Stearns? Where is your authority for the bailout for AIG? Where in the Constitution can you point for your authority?" Not once, not twice, but 3 times I asked the Treasury Secretary where in the Constitution he could find that authority. And guess what? We had a goose egg every time. We could not get an answer out of the Treasury Secretary. I asked Ben Bernanke, our Federal Reserve Chair, with all due respect, the same question. Where do you find the authority? Because the Constitution and the Declaration are not optional documents. This is the supreme law of the United States, the Constitution. We are living through an incredible time, and I was there last night in the chamber watching the State of the Union address, and there's some interesting things that happened. You know, it was a year ago today we were all talking about the President's State of the Union address, and what were we talking about? Does anybody remember? Yes, that's right. Our colleague Joe Wilson from South Carolina uttered two words that were heard around the country. You lie, that's right. And that was over whether or not the President had included in his health care bill taxpayer subsidy for illegal aliens. Well, by the end of the week, the Senate pulled that provision out of its bill, thus proving our friend Joe Wilson was right. And now this year, what's everybody talking about today with that State of the Union message? Our Supreme Court Justice, Sam Alito, shook his head, said to the President, "Not true." So now let's follow this. Last year, Joe Wilson, You lie. This year, Sam Alito, not true. Do I detect a pattern? What's it going to be next year? I'll tell you, this has been an awfully long 12 months as far. How about for you? It's been a long 12 months. We've got 3 years to go. But this November, we have the opportunity of a lifetime, as David Horowitz said, to put a break on socialism. And you heard me right. I am not apologizing for that word. That is exactly what we're seeing coming out of Washington, D.C.